Marshall, Clark to the rim. An 11-0 Iowa run. As one of the arena cameramen got hit there after the bucket, and the officials stopped play.
Right here, this is Caitlin Clark all on her own, jumping out to double team. She sensed that she could get the steals, that she could create some havoc, and she did, and got the layup the other way. And let's go.
Gabby Marshall approves.
I drive a very nice car. It's very fast, very shiny. But sadly, it's not built for the famous Aussie lifestyle. And I love the famous Aussie lifestyle. I love the fashion. I love the food. But mainly, I like to drive here. So this is my second car. Designed for my second home, Australia. Bike rack, rod holders, roof racks, thong storage, built-in pie oven, freshwater shower. Oh, hey Barrow. Valtteri is having a little shower too. Budget smuggler drying system. BRS, buck reduction system. Mullet aeration technology.
Check this out. That's a bird.
I'm going to be busy racing my first car, so I put this baby on Uber Carshare. You can rent it for free, because I am very rich already. Australia's home of second cars. Valtteri will miss you.
I refuse to walk away from the fight.
Okay. Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, Aston, now McLaren, all have a speed on the straights. Our shot is battling in the turns. We need to build our car for combat.
How am I supposed to make that safe?
Who said anything about safe?
A big noise playing in the street, gonna be a big man someday. You got mud on your face, you big disgrace, kicking your can all over the place, singing we will Berry's gone, and he goes up and over. Huge hit for Josh Berry. Eric Jones is involved. There's Austin Cindric. That was wild. There we go. Now the AMR safety team content. And there's Josh. There we go. There's the thumbs up.
That was a scary wreck. Watch this car, how quickly, when it gets spun, contact. The two is getting pushed, and as soon as that car was pushing him, got turned around and went. This is what scared me, because Josh is hanging on his belts. He's not in his seat. He's hanging on his belts and has that frontal impact.
Everything that went right for the 34 to set his car back on the wheels didn't go right for Josh Berry, and I'm with you, Jeff. The flip is the first concern, but then the hit into the wall when gravity is pulling you out of the seat is just different. Multi-point harness is trying to hold your hips and your lower body tight into that seat. But as you run all day, the heat, the sweat, everything kind of loosens up a little bit. You have to keep tugging on those belts. It was so great for Josh to get out.
And again, that speaks to the structural integrity. Here's the view from Austin Dillon. Oh. Massive hit with Gilliland.
Austin thought he was going to miss it, and then Gilliland came from nowhere. See, here's the push from behind, and then it moved the two car up. And again, pushing gone wrong.
What a violent hit.
See right there, there's the push. They all stacked up, the 8, the 20. Now, the one thing about that car, when it's sat down on the roof,
yes,
look at the integrity of the roof. It's sitting there really strong. That's something this car is really good at. The older car, that roof would collapse. This car is much stronger. This is two weeks in a row, Steve, with cars in the air.
Yeah, a change was made. Obviously, more work to be done.
Hi, I'm Parker Kligerman. For more access like this from Pit Road, be sure to click and subscribe to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube channel.
Driver, start your
Good evening, race fans. Welcome to the Draft and the Circus program brought to you by Sinister One Productions. My name is Frank Santorowski. I'll be your host for the next hour as we go over this past weekend in racing. Joining me, my good friend, Richard Uden. Richard, how we doing, buddy?
Very good. Yourself?
Oh, excellent, excellent. Good
Glad to
be
see
home.
you back in the world of permanent internet.
Yeah. I've been I've been on the road training. I've been out of town for the last 6 weeks, but here I am back home. Get to sleep in my bed every night. I gotta love that. So,
put your AOL dial-up modem back in its box.
Yeah, well, actually, that was me coming into my phone in a place with not great phone access either. So, but yeah, I'm home and I'm back, and we're gunning towards the closer to the end of the season. IndyCar will wrap up first. NASCAR's getting ready for their playoffs. And then, of course, Formula One still has a ways to go. They race right into December. But first off, sponsors, Luis Torres Multimedia. Luis, once again, cannot be with us because he prefers to torture himself by taking pictures of the Seattle Mariners as they lose baseball games. And then he lets that get to him too much. Also,
no.
Uber Carshare, Netflix, Senna. Debuts in 2024. And then we saw a clip of Josh Berry going for a wild ride at Daytona. So let's talk about Daytona. So back in Richmond, right, we saw Austin Dillon, a driver who really has no business being in the playoffs, get a race win, but then NASCAR wasn't too happy with the way he did it. So they allowed him to keep the win, but they stripped him of playoff eligibility. And it's almost as if the racing guys said, "Oh, you didn't like that one? Hold my beer." So we get to Daytona. Harrison Burton, who's pretty close to last in regular season points amongst full-time drivers, he's already looking for work for next year, pulls a win out of thin air, or the nature of the restrictor plate race, as we've seen in the past. The restrictor plate races can produce surprise winners, but Harrison Burton gets his first Cup win and gets that playoff berth, and he didn't wreck anybody on the way to get there, so he'll be in the playoffs, which tightens up the race a bit. I mean, we've got on the outside looking in, we have Bubba Wallace, Ross Chastain, and Kyle Busch, three pretty serviceable drivers. Kyle Busch, two-time champion, Ross Chastain, multiple race winner, Bubba Wallace, who's won a couple races, and those guys are all below the cut line. Of the ones right above the cut line, Martin Truex, he looks relatively safe with only one race going in. Ty Gibbs, that could go either way, and Chris Buescher is as far above the cut line as Bubba Wallace is below. So you've got about five guys that are gunning for that last spot.
Isn't that how the cut line works, though?
Yeah.
Whoever's on either side of the cut line are bound to be the same distance apart.
Well, they're 20. One guy 21 points ahead, 21 points below. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is kind of how it works. If you're 21 points back, it's
Sorry.
So don't pick on me. So, but it was a pretty wild race. I mean, Richard, what were your thoughts? I mean, we saw a little bit of everything. We saw a couple of big ones. We saw a couple of cars airborne. We saw Josh Berry hit the wall upside down, which is, you don't see that every day.
I can't remember, to tell you the truth, last time I saw anything like that. Obviously, you've had, in recent memory, and in my memory of the sport, we've had Ryan Newman and Austin Dillon going into the outside of the wall with the greenhouse first, if you like, which is, we saw the severity of those accidents. But from my recollection, there wasn't any, I'm sure there was one or two, but there was no pack green flag pit stop. So it really messed with the strategy of the teams to try and work together in manufacturer groups, the Ford, GMs, the Toyota guys. They try to work together in these plate races, or well, not restricted plate races anymore, but on these super speedways to try and work together and maintain the draft. And I don't think we had a meaningful green flag stop anyway by any of the contenders. So it was an unusual race from that standpoint. So you always had a pack. It never really got stretched out, and the field never really got broken up, and you saw the nature of that with some pretty spectacular wrecks. McDowell got turned out of the lead, and he went into the wall sideways, I'd guess. No, he didn't fully go over, but that Josh Berry one was bad. To go on his roof, as we saw with Corey LaJoy
very
previously.
recently, yeah.
These cars are designed incredibly strong, and we don't give enough credit or give enough praise at times to these fabricators that build these cars. They do an incredible job of building strong, safe cars. So the sliding on his roof wasn't the problem. Hitting the wall wasn't a problem. The fact that he did both at the same time was a bit of a concern. All of these safety harnesses and the hands device and the helmets and the head restraints and the seatbelt systems aren't designed for an impact like that. So I'm sure NASCAR will take a lot of lessons away from that. They'll do a lot of analysis of the in-car crash data loggers that they run, and they'll simulate the accident and find out, what worked well. Obviously, fundamentally, it worked well, as Josh was incredibly lucky to walk away from that. But, I'm sure there's things they'll work on. And I'm a firm believer that NASCAR don't get enough credit for the fantastic job they do with the safety of the sport. They've worked, wonders in the last few years, to make these cars safe. Yeah, we've had the issues with the next-gen cars, and there's caused some, concussion issues. But fundamentally, yeah, concussion's not great, don't get me wrong, but these guys are walking away from these wrecks. So great to see Josh Berry walk away from that one. And, we'll see him at Darlington this weekend. We're trying to get that Stuart Haas car in as well.
Even Josh Berry said after, in his post-race interview coming out of the Infield Care Center, he said, other than getting upside down, it wasn't that bad.
No.
No,
they're doing a fantastic job. They really have. But the problem is, and again, this is a good thing from NASCAR, encouraging from NASCAR, is they're not resting on the laurels, for a better word. They're just because we got away with a big wreck and the driver walked away, it doesn't mean that they're not looking at ways they can still improve the safety of the vehicle. They're being very proactive. They're always looking at ways to strengthen these cars and make them safer. Because at some point we will have a driver that gets injured. It's just the nature of the sport. You can't avoid it.
Right. Yeah.
But if they can mitigate it as much as possible.
Yeah, we haven't lost a driver in 23 years.
We've been very lucky. We've had some big accidents.
Yeah.
You look at, as I said, I mentioned those two earlier. The Dillon and the Newman accidents were probably the two closest that we've had to, wow, we got lucky there.
Yeah.
And sometimes you do. Sometimes you just get pure luck.
The Ryan Newman one was scary. Yeah.
I remember I was actually I was on a plane from Dallas back to North Carolina, because I think the race had been delayed to a Monday afternoon.
Yeah, it was about 1:00 in the morning when I was going down. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember we were taxiing to the runway as it happened, and then I've got a 3-hour flight with no internet connection and nothing, and I was thinking the worst, because they put the screens up around the car and all that sort of stuff, and I was thinking, oh, this is not good. But thankfully, the safety guys and the safety equipment did its job. But outside of that, in terms of an actual race result, it was typical super speedway racing. These are the sort of races that you can get the surprise winner. And as you mentioned earlier, the Harrison Burton was sat there last in the point standings. He was 34th or 35th in the points, and to come away with a race win and lock himself into the playoffs. I caught a bit of Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s podcast earlier in the week, and I think he says at the end of the season standings, it's roughly about $125,000 to $150,000 per position in the table, prize money directly from NASCAR. So you go from 34th to 16th in one race.
Yeah.
That's a huge amount of money, in the millions of dollars. And that doesn't include the incentives they'll get from sponsors and the win bonuses that they'll get from their manufacturer. So that, if Wood Brothers were ever in any danger, long term, then that win secured their future for the next year or two. I know they have very, very close ties with Penske, But even so,
they just got a lifeline. Yeah. So and the other significant thing was the Wood brothers have been sitting on 99 wins.
Oh yes,
for several years.
Was it Blaney that had the 99th win?
That sounds about right. Yeah. But they've been sitting on 99 for a number of years, and now, so Josh Berry not only has the improbable win, makes it a playoffs, but it gives the Wood brothers a milestone victory, 100 Cup wins.
Yeah.
So hats off to them. They're one of the oldest teams in the sports that's still going.
Yeah.
These guys have been around forever. I still remember reading the stories about how they
didn't they, or up that way?
Yeah, they were a Virginia-based team. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they were in Ridgeway, which is close to Martinsville.
Yeah.
But I still remember the stories of how Colin Chapman, when he went to the Indy 500 with Jim Clark, wanted to get somebody that could fuel the car quickly, so he sought out the Wood brothers out of NASCAR and brought them to the 500, and they were instrumental in that Indy 500 win. Back in 1965, right? So yeah,
it's crazy, isn't it?
I know, right?
I actually met one of them. I think one of them's passed away, haven't they? One of the Wood brothers.
Yeah. So
I think I met very briefly the surviving one, and it's quite embarrassing because I didn't realise who it was. It was when I was working for RCR. I was just walking through the foyer there, and this old guy comes over and says, I asked me how I'm doing. I said, yeah. He said, do you know which way to Richard's office? And I'm like, weird. Oh. The receptionist over there will be able to help you. And, trying to pass the buck. And then I'll go through a few minutes later, and the receptionist sort of beckons me over. Do you know who that was? I'm like, oh. It's Mr. Wood from the Wood brothers. I'm like, who's that? Oops.
It's when you were still pretty new to American
racing. Was it Leonard
racing.
Wood? I think it was, wasn't it? Was it Leonard Wood?
Yeah, Len Wood. It's Glenn Wood and Len Wood are the two guys.
That was it. Yeah, it was one of whichever.
Glenn and Leonard. Yeah. So
yeah, but no,
but good for them. So another news. So NASCAR is going to race in Mexico City.
Mm-hmm.
Next year, Richmond's going to lose a date. Much to the dismay of the NASCAR older fan base, who really just doesn't sit well with them. Number one, we don't even know more road courses. Number two, we did this American sport for American drivers. But and somebody, one of them said, "Oh yeah, NASCAR go broke." I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not.
Yeah.
I hear that a lot, but I don't think international expansion is tantamount to going woke. But I mean, whatever. The fans have their misguided opinions as much as they do, but I think it's pretty exciting. Certainly, they've got a very good driver there in Daniel Suarez, who's going to be very popular down there. And of course, this prompted Pato O'Ward, who drives the INDYCAR series, to say, hey, look, INDYCAR needs to go to Mexico. He said, look, NASCAR gets it, right?
Yep.
That's a great market to get into, and INDYCAR really could stand to be down there. So, whether that happens or not, I don't know. Last international thing I heard INDYCAR was working on was Argentina a couple of years ago. That kind of
I think Canapino and the death threats probably haven't helped too
helped too much. Yep. So in Mexico City, I mean, that's I love that track. I love the fact that it goes right through a football stadium in the middle of the track.
Baseball? Was it baseball?
It's
used to be anyway. I think it's baseball. Yeah.
I mean, it's a stadium. You got those stadium seats there in the middle, right? So But it's just a cool track. They've INDYCAR has been there in the past. Formula One obviously runs there. So I think it'll be a great challenge. And while we're talking about road courses, so our road course ringer, Van Ginsberg, SVG, full-time in Cup next year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good on him. He's gone from being a one-off, show up and win in Chicago to
I think it was always the plan, wasn't it, with Trackhouse from the third car? But
Then they gave him the schedule where he bounced between Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup, and now he's full time in a Cup. So good for him. Yeah, I like that guy.
I did see a quote, and I can't remember who it was by. I think it could have been Landon Castle or somebody along those lines. And he said, in the past he'd always given criticism to stuff like the V8 supercars officiating because they're a lot stricter on contact between cars than NASCAR is. And he said, I take all that back because Van Gisberg drives so clean and he'll come up to you, he'll move around you, he'll pass you, he doesn't lean on you, he doesn't move you out of the way, he passes you because he's quicker. And he's like, it's great to race against guys like that.
Yeah.
So he said, that. And he said, it was interesting. He said, I always hated those series because they'd give out too many blocking penalties and too many, avoidable contact penalties. And then he said, but then actually when you race against guys that have come from that background and have that mentality, he said it's really good to race against those people. Not because you've got an advantage, but he says it's just fair racing and it's good racing. And he said it's enjoyable to race, not this sort of like dodgem car racing that they get half the time.
Yeah. I mean, it just goes to show you can make a clean pass without moving a guy or taking air off his bumper or whatever they call it, right? So, but so good for Shane, and we'll see how his career progresses.
I think do I hear right that he's going to be driving the 88 car?
The 88 car, yep, iconic number.
How they got hold of that
made famous by Dale Jr.
Yeah, that's an interesting pickup for them if they've. I don't know how that all works. I don't know who owned that 88 number, if anybody owned it.
Would have been RCR, I guess, right?
Well, no, Hendrick.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, Hendrick, yeah.
So who knows? Yeah, but interesting.
Yeah, and again, much to the dismay of the NASCAR old school people.
Oh my God, this damn! But keep calling them Australian or something, won't they? And
yeah, but I mean, they got over Austin Dillon running the 3 eventually. No, they haven't.
No, come on, no, they haven't. No,
they still like to bring that up every now and again. So,
but they still do. But you're still allowed to, move people without wrecking them.
Yeah. So we've got one race left before the playoffs start.
Yep.
And that race is in.
Oh, Darlington.
That's right. Yeah.
Yep.
Labor Day weekend.
Southern 500. No, this isn't the Southern 500, is it? This is the 4. I don't know which one this is.
I mean, I think they're calling
the Southern 500 is the one in earlier in the year. That Keselowski one, wasn't it?
I believe so. I think they're calling this one the 75th Darlington 500-mile race or something. Some weird like that, right? So,
buddy Gray Warren went to about 80 of those 75, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yep. He was a fixture there, right? And I went to Darlington once, and yeah, it's a very unique track.
It is,
and it was
a unique part of the world.
That too, yeah. But it was they had just flip-flopped the main grandstands from the front stretch to the back stretch. And it was 96 or 97, I believe, when I went there. So you had the old front grandstands were on the back stretch.
Yep.
And they built a nice new ones on what is now the front stretch. So they just kind of flipped that. But I mean, that's a very durable track. It's been on there. Like Martinsville's been on there just about since the beginning.
Yep.
Who do you like for Darlington? Toyota driver?
I mean,
Bubba Wallace sneaks into the playoffs.
I think Bubba's going to have a really good finish. Bubba's going to have a top 5, I think, at least to make the playoffs. But I know it would be detrimental to Bubba for sure. But hey, let's throw Eric Jones in there. Come on, why not? He's had a pretty Eric Jones.
Eric Jones,
twice there. He knows his way around that place.
Sure, he has. Yeah.
They'll have a setup that that car will be. That car will have been fluffed and buffed for a number of weeks and months now, getting it ready. That's his playground, that place. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on. But Yeah, it'd be great to see Bubba do well. Bubba had another strong race going at Daytona and just didn't quite get it done. But he could have. Bubba's been unlucky. He's come real close the last few weeks, and it'd be great to see him get a win.
Yeah, get the playoff
Yeah,
spot
I mean,
there. So
internally within Toyota, our aim was to get 5 of our 8 cars into the playoffs, and we've got 5 pretty much certain at the moment, unless we have something drastic go wrong. So that's mission accomplished for us, but it'd be great to get 6.
Yeah, because you got Ty Gibbs right there chomping at the bit, and Bubba right there.
Yep.
So barring another oddball winner coming out of nowhere, those guys should be able to get in on points. But what do you think about Ty Gibbs at Darlington? I started out this season picking Ty Gibbs race after race to win a race, and then he just hasn't quite sealed the deal. But
it hasn't quite clicked, has it?
I still feel like this kid is right on the cusp of winning a race.
Yeah, I mean, you remember back at Bristol earlier.
Maybe not Darlington, but
Oh yeah, I mean, he's not far off, that's for sure. I mean, you remember back to Bristol earlier in the year when he was so quick there, and of course they had the tire issues, and it kept affecting him. But there's been a number of other races where he's just, so close, and I don't think he's a million miles away from getting one done. It'd be great to see him do it and get that win, because he's quieting down a little bit, I think. Obviously there's a lot of fanfare and exposure about him when he came into that seat last year. But he's maybe, taking a step back from the limelight and what have you. And, doing, he's really putting the effort in. And, I think he's one of those drivers that once he gets that first win, it'll just snowball and he'll gain a massive amount of confidence. And as I say, he's running up there at the front. It's not like he's running 20th every week and he'll fluke into a win. He's got top 10 on pace pretty much every week. So let's see if he gets it done. It'd be great to see.
Yeah, another guy you can't really look too far past at Darlington is Keselowski. He's got a number of wins there. And of course his teammate Chris Buescher right there on the playoff cusp. Maybe he could say, Brad, what are some of your secrets around Darlington? So, but yeah, and then of course I'd love to see Martin Truex win a race in his final season.
Yeah, he's getting
like
close
say
again.
he's pretty safe to get in the playoffs, but I just hate to see the guy go winless.
And it is, it's an uphill battle as well. And when you're in the playoffs, to once you're in there, if you don't have any wins, you don't have many stage points. It's an uphill battle through the first few rounds. If you win the regular season, that's a huge bonus. That's like 15 playoff points, which is the equivalent of 5 race wins, and that gets applied at every stage of the playoffs. I'm not saying it guarantees you a spot in the final 4, but you have to have some pretty rough races not to the final 4. After being
pretty darn close, pushes you almost all the way through. Yeah. So, and Truex, who's no stranger to the playoffs, got one championship under the belt. He's been in the final 4 a number of times. So, yeah. So it'll be interesting to watch. And is that a Sunday night race?
Very good question. I don't know. I don't think it is.
Afternoon, because they've done that in the recent past with Monday being a holiday, people not having to work.
6:00 start. Yep, yeah. Of course, it's a holiday, isn't it? Yeah. So Sunday 6:00.
Yeah. So it's twilight starts.
It'll finish at 9:30.
Yeah. So that'll be cool. All right. So let's. Any other NASCAR news we neglected to mention? Do we want to talk about? Want to talk about his Toyota penalty?
Yeah, I mean,
because that really kind of put a hurting on Denny Hamlin's chance to be the regular season champion. I mean, he was a little behind, Larson and them anyway, but he was right there in the mix.
He was, and it's thankfully, it's not detracted from his championship, opportunities in many ways. He's still going to be in the playoffs. He's still going to be one of the leading, still going to be one of the favourites going into the playoffs. So, not the end of the world. But as Toyota and TRD, although I'm not directly involved in this side of the business, we take the responsibilities, seriously when it comes to adhering to the NASCAR rules. And of course, all the conspiracy theorists are saying it's a cheat engine and all this sort of stuff, but it's not. It was a genuine oversight by, I don't even know if it was an individual or group of individuals. We don't know, but that's probably we'll never come to understand that. But the rules on NASCAR is that if an engine wins a race, it has to go back to the NASCAR R&D center to be stripped down and inspected, which is fine. We don't have a problem with that. Everybody does that. It's not an issue. Where we fell foul of this in this instance was after the Bristol race, with the Bristol race being early in the season. That engine still had races to complete before it hit its mileage limit, which is, again, one of the stipulations in the NASCAR rulebook now, that engines have to do so many races, which is pretty common. We can get engines through multiple races these days. So if that's the case and the engine still is not out of life, then NASCAR attach what they call a red tag to the engine. And the idea is that as soon as the engine has completed its life cycle, it gets pulled from the car, shipped to NASCAR, and they tear it down and do their inspection. That red tag it's like a safety wire or whatever. It's installed in such a way that you can't take the engine apart without breaking the seal. Unfortunately, what happened in this instance is after it had hit its maximum race allocation, this engine, instead of being returned to NASCAR for inspection, it was shipped back to Costa Mesa in California to be stripped down like all the other engines that hit their mileage limit. And for whatever reason, however this happened, the red tags were cut off this engine. And then at that point, somebody, this is, completely paraphrasing, walked past the engine and saw all these red tags on the floor and And as Toyota, we immediately contacted NASCAR. We told them of the situation. We immediately contacted JGR and Denny Hamlin and made them aware of the situation. We did everything we could to rectify it. We know it was going to be a penalty. It is what it is. You can't, we have to own it. But there was no, obviously, again, I wasn't in the meeting, but from reports from people that were, there was no, obviously, Joe Gibbs and Denny were disappointed, as anybody would be. But we're very lucky in that the Toyota and the JGR, especially culture, it's a no blame culture. We win these things together as a team and we lose them together as a team. And this is no different. We take it on the chin. We did what we had to do. We reported it to NASCAR and they acted accordingly. And we react to that and we learn and we do better and we make sure we don't make the same mistake again. And we refocus our efforts on the playoffs and giving Denny as good an opportunity to claim that championship, which he undoubtedly deserves, and also the rest of our guys that are going to be in the playoffs. So not a great week for Toyota. We've been on the back foot for a number of weeks with engine issues anyway. The last few weeks. So there's been pressure on us, and this certainly didn't help the situation. But we do what we do, and we go into Darlington with a positive attitude, and hopefully get 5, if not 6 cars in the playoffs, and then reset.
All right. So well said. So let's turn our attention to Portland, Oregon, where the IndyCars were this past weekend, and Santino Ferrucci won his first pole position of his career.
Yep.
And the first pole position for an AJ Foyt car since I want to say 2013 when Takuma put it on the pole at Long Beach.
Oh gosh, yeah, wow.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so we're talking,
12 years, 11 years,
yeah, over a decade. So,
how many times has AJ Folt almost killed himself in that intervening time?
37.
Yeah.
So Santino, who's having a hell of a season this year in a Foyt car. I mean, he's maintained a position in the top 10 in points, which the likes we haven't seen in the Foyt cars for a number of years. So obviously the technical alliance with Penske is showing some dividends. Obviously, and then of course we have the undercurrent that where Malukas has signed for Foyt for next year, that'll eventually lead to a Penske seat for him. And a lot of people are saying, oh yeah, he's going to take over for Penske when Will Power retires. Now, here's the rub. Will Power has no intention of retiring. As a matter of fact, Will Power is having a banner season this year. Will Power dominated that race in Portland and won it. Didn't put a wheel wrong all day. Pretty much textbook race. Only relinquished the lead on pit stops. All his pit stops were Penske perfect. Pretty damn close to a perfect day. And this is coming off a Gateway where he was dominating that race until Alexander Rossi ran him over and ended his day early. So, but I mean, the end result is he's only 53 points back from Palou, which is essentially a one race lead with 3 races to go. So this championship is solidly in Will Power's sights. Now, of course, the stumbling block is now I heard a driver describe Palou as a mosquito. He said you can swat him away, but it seemed like he's always there.
Yep.
So while Will Power's dominating, Palou quietly second place finish, right? So Will bridged the gap a little bit, but not that much, not as much as he could have. Will did everything he could, but Alex is right there. 3 races left to go. Obviously, Palou has never had an oval win, but he generally gets good finishes, whether the track is an oval or not. So it's still a tall order to gain 53 points, unless, Palou has a major problem, hits the wall or has a couple of pit stop penalties or something like that. But the race is definitely tightened up. It was like, a couple of weeks ago, everybody was handing the trophy to Palou. Now it's not so certain right now, right? In the meantime, the other guy you always got to watch out for the championship, Scott Dixon, taken out on lap 1 of Portland.
Yeah, wasn't he just?
Had a run-in with Kyle Kirkwood, and as he was trying to right the car and get back on the track, he kind of pulled into the racing line, not at speed where Pietro Fittipaldi was there to greet him with a bump into the gravel trap. In the wall,
that was a bit clumsy by Fittipaldi, wasn't it? That was not the greatest.
I think it was a bit clumsy by Dixon, if you ask me. But I think the whole thing falls on Kirkwood, for starting the whole thing. But that put Dixon out on lap 1, which dropped him from 3rd in the points, he was 2nd coming into Portland because Will had dropped down, and all the way to 5th. While he's not mathematically eliminated for all practical purposes, he's not gonna win that next championship this year. So it's going to be between Power and Palou. You've got McLaughlin kind of right there. Newgarden hit the podium, but Newgarden likes to make his own problems. But again, 3 ovals coming up. Newgarden likes the ovals. The Penske cars like the ovals, which the fact that the Penske cars like the ovals sits well for Will Power too. Will has a oval win at Iowa this year. And again, he was dominating the Gateway. So this championship, while people were trying to put it to bed several weeks ago before the Olympic break, is far from over.
Oh yeah.
Did you get a chance to watch the Portland race? Any of it, or
I caught bits of it? Yeah. As you said, you summed it up pretty well there. Will Power was pretty much untouchable. Palou had a couple of close runs at him on post pit stops and everything, but Will had it under control, and fair play to him. It was a pretty impressive performance there. So, as you rightly say, it'll take something for Palou not to win the championship. But obviously, Will's doing everything he can do. You can't ask any more than that, and we'll see what goes on in there, because I think all 3 of the final races are ovals, aren't they?
There's a doubleheader in Milwaukee, and then we go to Nashville. Yep.
Yeah,
they're all relatively short ovals because Milwaukee's a 1 mile, and then the 3/4 of a mile at Nashville.
They're all very similar, I think, in a way to Gateway, and Palou looked reasonably competitive at Gateway, didn't he? So I don't think he's going to be a million miles away from it.
Palou looks reasonably competitive every track we go to.
Yeah, well, considering people don't rate him as an oval racer, he holds his own. A lot of these. But there's a lot of clumsiness in there. Did Fittipaldi get 2 or 3 avoidable contact penalties throughout the race?
He did, yeah. Yeah,
Grosjean had a bit of a brain fade at one point.
Grosjean being Grosjean, and then, of course, he overreacts as well. Lighting up the tires and spinning around. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, so,
it's hard to believe. Hard to believe that just, 2-3 years ago, everybody was in love with Grosjean. Now everybody's about sick of him.
Well, I did read that he's having, he's had the best season that a Yuka Hollinger driver's ever had, isn't he, or something along those lines?
Yeah.
He's still doing the business in a reasonably uncompetitive, underfunded car, so you can't knock on the guy too much. But yeah, sometimes he does put himself in a position that doesn't make too many friends.
No, he's had run-ins with other drivers. He's had thrown his engineers under the bus publicly to the press at times. This is a guy who wears his emotions on his sleeve, and he's kind of always been like that. But he's still working, still a serviceable driver.
Oh yeah,
So
if you want an experienced driver that knows what it takes to have the right engineering infrastructure around him and build a team up, then I don't think you're going to go far wrong. It's interesting that Yuka Hollinger obviously they've openly said they want to re-sign him for 2025 and beyond, but he has other options available to him. I don't know where those other options would lay in the IndyCar field, whether some of the WEC teams are sniffing around him,
my guess would there will be WEC teams.
Yeah.
Because I really haven't heard anybody's strong desire to sign Grosjean in IndyCar. There are a few seats available, but when you got Rossi as one of your available guys there, Grosjean kind of drops down the list there, right? So
yeah.
So
and it's interesting. I did see that also. I think it was announced today that it probably looks like Ed Carpenter's done. I think from a driving perspective, I noticed the rookies has stepped in from the oval schedule.
Yeah, let's talk about Ed Carpenter. Yeah, because Ed Carpenter right now is splitting seat time in the 20 with Christian Rasmussen. Ed does the ovals. Ed has come out earlier today, with a press release that says he's stepping aside from the cockpit. Rasmussen is going to run those last 3 races of the season. But Ed also emphasized this is not a statement that I'm retiring. So, you know what that says to me? Indy 500 only for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but yeah, obviously Ed has lost a step somewhere.
Yeah, because he was always that oval guy, wasn't he? And the last couple of years, it's been. I don't want to use the word. I hate to use the word embarrassing, but
I want to say 2018 was one of his last really solid performances in Indy, where he finished second to Will Power.
Yeah,
but he was in the mix all day. But I mean, his last couple outings have been, like you say, frankly embarrassing. So
well, I was said I didn't want to use the word embarrassing, but
I don't mind using that word. And I'm sure that Ed would probably agree, which is probably why he's stepping aside. He's like, look, because they're right on the cusp of the winner's circle money too.
Yep.
You need to be right there in the top 20, 21 or 22 in points.
Yep.
And between those two guys, they're like right there on the edge. So who's going to deliver a better performance? Rasmussen, who's not running oval in an IndyCar other than the 500 earlier this year, but he's run a couple of ovals in Indy Lights, or Ed Carpenter, who can't seem to get beyond lap 20 without having contact with somebody. Yeah, exactly. So, and then of course we'll see when we get to Milwaukee. Catherine Legg will be in the coin car. She's contracted for the last 3 ovals. So
she's hanging around, isn't she? Yeah.
See what she can do.
But
I'm really interested to see how Santino Ferrucci does coming off the pole. I mean, I think he converted his day into an 8th place finish. Maybe it wasn't spectacular, but I know that winning that pole gives the driver and that whole team a big boost of confidence. And Santino is really solid on the oval tracks. So I mean, we may see him really be in the mix here over the next 3 races. And the other guy doing great in his temporary ride is David Malukas.
Yeah.
He's he could have podiumed at Portland, but things didn't quite work out. But he was.
I bet if you asked him on the 1st of January this year, how's your year going to play out?
Yeah.
He would have not had this on his bingo card.
No. So I'm going to break my wrist, get fired by McLaren, So then, of course, the other guy in there who's not setting the world on fire, Connor Daly, who picked up the ride after Canapino was summarily sent back to Argentina, had pretty rough race in Portland. But again, Connor does pretty good on ovals too, so it's an opportunity for last 3 races of the season for them to kind of garner some good points. So I like willpower for Milwaukee.
Yep.
Of course
he's got the bit between his teeth, hasn't he?
Yeah. Of course, there's 2 races there, so I mean, Will could do them both. Newgarden, you never want to look past Newgarden on an oval. Or McLaughlin. I mean, all the Penske guys are just dynamite. They've won like all the oval races for the last 2 years, right? More or less, close.
I wonder at what point. I wonder if potentially. I know, you're going to start to see team orders play a role, or not team orders, but team tactics. With the Penske guys, helping Will a little bit.
You would like to see that. You don't want to see
unless you're below.
You certainly do. But you certainly don't want to see, Newgarden move over and let Penske in the lead. You don't want to see a Michael Schumacher kind of thing. But but you would like to see, if Power's in the lead there and Palouse coming after him and one of the other guys are in between to kind of maybe, Penske's been in a little bit of disarray all season after that opening season thing, and Newgarden has really had a tough time, PR wise and otherwise. So I know Penske lets his guys race, but you would think we'd see some even in pit strategy, where if Joseph is ahead of Will, they might pit Will earlier to undercut or later to overcut. So yeah, but I do like the Penske cars for the rest of the season. But
they've got that momentum going out there when it really, really counts, especially with one of the races being a double header. You can really carry that momentum from day to day.
Right. Okay. So let's go to Belgium. Get some fries in a cone.
I mean, if you want to, but I think most people were actually in Holland.
Huh?
Most people were in Holland, but you can go to Belgium if you want.
Okay. So did I look up the wrong fucking race? Oh shit.
Oh my God.
So the Dutch Grand Prix. Why did I think we were in Belgium? Oh, because I was researching Logan Sargent. So anyway, so the Dutch Grand Prix.
Well, of our 3 listeners, there goes one of them.
So one of the knocks on Formula One is that there's always that one guy dominates the whole race, nobody can catch him, and it's boring. And we saw that in Holland, but it was the wrong guy. Yep. So Richard, I'm gonna step away from the microphone for a moment, let you talk about
collect your thoughts. I got a globe somewhere if you want to borrow it.
Oh, it's okay. It has nothing to do with the globe. It has everything to do with me Googling last week's Formula One result, and it said Formula One Belgium.
Oh, boy.
All right. Talk about the Grand Prix. I'll be back in like a minute and a half.
Okay. So, yeah, we're at the beachfront in Zandvoort, poor man's Monaco. And, the first race after the summer break. And, we'd obviously seen Red Bull a little bit on the back foot, for the second half of the first half of the season, if you like. Second quarter, I guess. And, it came to fruition again. Throughout practice on Friday and Saturday morning, the McLarens looked strong, Ferrari looked strong. Red Bull were just a little bit off the pace. Lando Norris stepped up in the McLaren to take pole position. I think it's like his 4th pole in the last 5 races or 3rd pole in the last 4. But he's had some fantastic qualifying performances. With Max slotting in 2nd, and unfortunately for Lando, he'd never won from pole. And going into the race on Sunday, that curse, if you like, of not converting poles into wins seemed to have taken effect again. Typically in Formula One, your race starts, most engineers consider it to be 2 phases. And typically the reason we consider it's 2 phases is because most modern Formula One cars, or all modern Formula One cars, have 2 clutch paddles. And they're used to engage the clutch in different ways throughout the start sequence. And both Max and Lando had a great first phase, and then it appeared that Lando just bogged down a little bit for that second phase. And the Red Bull was really quick in that phase at the start, and Max managed to get ahead. And he held that for about 10, 15 laps, I think it was. And he pulled away a couple of seconds at one point. But the McLaren is extremely good at tyre management now, extremely good. And Lando was able to reel him in, past him, pulled out about a 5-6 second lead before the first round. I think it was the only round of stops for the leaders, actually. Pitted, maintained that lead over Max, and kept pulling away. And I mean, I'm struggling to remember the last time that a Red Bull, the leading Red Bull in Max Verstappen, finished 20 seconds behind the leader on genuine pace. It's not been for a long, long, long time.
Yeah, so this left the Red Bull engineers befuddled. They're like,
oh yeah,
they're like, oh my.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, and can you put that down to the Adrian Newey effect? With obviously Adrian, announcing he's leaving Red Bull and not having such a hands-on role within the team at the moment while he's in this sort of limbo phase. It's all a little bit weird. I don't know. It's not gardening leave. It's not. What is it? It's not like he's been sent out to train with the kids in the reserve team, or whatever, the practice squad. But, he's a really strange dynamic. It's almost like he doesn't want to leave, but he's been forced to leave. So anyway, that's another story for another day.
Yeah.
So, it's really set up quite an interesting, final half dozen or dozen races or so, whatever, 10 races, however many we've got between now and the end of the year, 9, I think it is. In theory, if Lando wins every race and Max finishes second in every race, I think Max just about claims the championship. And that doesn't include any points for fastest lap. But I think Max is 75 points ahead with 9 races to go, and there's 8-point differential between first and second. So I think Max just claims it. Not 100% sure. But long way to go.
But that's provided Max finishes second in every race.
Oh, for sure. And that's where guys like, Oscar and Piastri got to step up, and, Ferrari can show their hand at times, and Mercedes have shown their hand at times. So
I was going to say, we've had both McLaren drivers have won a race. Both Ferrari drivers have won a race this year. Both Mercedes drivers,
yeah,
right. But only
both Red Bull. Oh no, wait, they haven't.
Only one of the Red Bull drivers have won a race. Yeah,
so it's going to be a fascinating end to the season. And I was reading an article earlier which sort of compared this season from 2009 when Braun won the championship. Braun got off to a really quick start, and then sort of tailed off towards the end of the season. I think Jensen won the championship, but he only had 3 podiums in the last 10 races. But he created such a lead in the championship.
Such a gap, because they came out of the box and won like the first 4 or 5 races.
I think it was first 5 out of 6 JB won, It was very impressive.
That sounds about right, yeah.
But now, of course, you have the cost cap, so it's harder for Red Bull to catch up again, because they've got they've got wind tunnel limited time, they've got financial limitations. How do they get back to the front? So it's going to be fascinating to see how that all plays out between now and the end of the year.
Now, Richard, you shared a video with me about something that looked a little sketchy with McLaren's tires. Was that is that something tricky they're doing, or?
I haven't got to the bottom of that one yet. I showed it to a couple of the guys that I work with that have also worked in F1, and it almost looks like they've got some spring-loaded hub, which under a certain load causes the rear tyres to move out by about an inch. We were trying to work out why you do that. Unless they're independently controlled and can shift from side to side, then that would obviously aid the car in turning.
Sure, yeah.
But not 100% certain what they're doing there. The interesting fact about it was post-race, there was, I think Alonso parked behind Piastri's car in Parc Ferme. And there's video from Alonso's camera showing Alonso crouched down the rear of the McLaren, taking a good look, obviously not touching, but taking a good old look of the McLaren rear suspension and rear hub assembly.
No, Alonso's good for that. We've got
him and Seb were the good ones, the smart guys.
Yeah, they're the guys that go ahead and take a good look at the other car.
Switched on, really, really switched on guys there. So there's obviously something there. What is it? Don't know. Don't want to say for certain, but I'm sure it's not cheating. I'm sure it's more a case of they found a loophole in the rules, and they're made the advantage of it. And if they have found something, come up with something, then fair play to them. Red Bull have done it in the past. Braun did it in the past. If we're looking at that 2009 season,
sure, yeah.
McLaren did it in past with the F duct and the S duct. No, Red Bull was the S duct, wasn't it? So that's what's great about the sport.
Even if you go back to the 90s, Williams.
Yeah. Oh, the CVT and all this sort of stuff, and the active suspension,
absolutely.
and even Mercedes recently had the DAS system, the thing where they could pull on the steering wheel and adjust the toe of the front tires. So some interesting things going on there. But it's great. That's what we want to see more of, the innovation. I'm sure we'll it'll get discussed at length coming into Monza this weekend for the Italian Grand Prix, which is obviously going to be another big test for Red Bull. It's typically not been their strongest circuit because typically their car hasn't been the fastest in the straight line. Now, obviously, things have changed a lot in recent years, but you expect McLaren to be strong there. And if Piastri can step up and finish second and demote Max to third, then that keeps chipping away at it.
The manufacturers championship is only 30 points apart right now.
Yeah, it's pretty damn close. And
so
if you continue this trajectory, you would put money on McLaren getting the first constructors championship for since the 2005-ish. I'm trying to remember now when the last one of constructors. It's been a while.
Back in the
Hamilton
days
era.
when they had Hamilton and Montoya. Yeah, so
it's
so
so
funny.
News. Sorry, go ahead.
Not that many years ago, McLaren was a total dumpster fire.
Oh yeah, with the GP2 engine, as Alonso called it.
Yeah. So in other news, I think I know what you're going to bring up, but go right ahead.
I was going to bring up the quality of food at the McLaren catering truck, but I don't know what you were going to talk about.
Same thing. I was going to say that their fish and chips are nowhere near as good as the ones they have at Williams.
Very true. Very true.
But since we're talking about Williams, I hear there's news over there.
There is. Now, as a side, when I worked at Williams, we actually had a contract with a celebrity chef that would go to the European races and cook meals for all the VIPs and executives. And one day he came in and prepared a meal for all the staff. And this guy's like a Michelin-starred TV celebrity chef in the UK. Oh my God, it was good! Wow. You go to restaurants. You go to a restaurant, you think you have good food. That's the only time I've ever eaten Michelin standard food, and that was phenomenal. But another story for another day. The axe has finally swung on Logan Sargent. You feel sorry for the kid because fundamentally he gave it his best go. You try not to sound patronizing when you say that, but he's just a little bit out of his depth. In 2022, he had a half decent start to his Formula 2 championship with half a dozen races to go. He had a shot of winning the title, and you were looking and thinking, "Ooh, yeah, no, that's not really his level." And he just sort of faltered and plateaued off between that and the end of the season. It's great to sixth place in the championship, which is enough to get him a super license for Formula One. And there's been a lot of pressure on the kid, obviously, and it just hasn't worked. Fundamentally,
he's earned exactly one championship point, and
that was because a guy got disqualified in front of him.
In almost in the season and
three quarters,
whatever.
You wanted him to do better because from everything that everybody said that's worked with him, and from what I've seen of him in interviews, and he's a really, really likable guy. People like him and they want him to do well. And James Vowles, the team principal there at Red Bull, has done everything he can to stick by him. But he just hasn't worked.
He absolutely has. And I think the straw that broke the camel's back was him absolutely destroying that car.
Again.
So, well, let's, we've only got about a minute left. But let's talk about his replacement because
it's an interesting one.
Colapinto.
I'm not sold on this one.
This is a name I'm unfamiliar with.
I mean, if you look at his junior career, I hate to say it, but it mirrors Logan Sargent pretty closely. He's top 5 in the Formula 2 championship. He's not dug up many trees along the way. The rumors are that Williams discussed bringing Mick Schumacher in. They discussed bringing Liam Lawson in from Red Bull. Apparently, the big issue with Lawson was that he's a backup for 2 teams. He's the backup for Red Bull and Racing Bulls, or whatever they're called these days. So at any given moment in time, he could suddenly be called upon by one of 2 teams. So the chances of him being called away get doubled. Now, it's unlikely, but not without, not outside the realms of possibility. And the Mick Schumacher one, not quite sure where all that played out. Cause I think he deserves another opportunity, but he did have a habit of, a pretty hefty repair bill. Something to give Logan Sargent room for money on that one. So maybe that was one of their thinkings. This Colapinto, he's a solid driver. He doesn't make many mistakes. He doesn't write cars off left, right, and center. He gets the job done on a reasonably regular basis. Let's see where it comes from, because there's no seat at Williams available for next year. Obviously, you're going to have Alex Albon in that car and Carlos Sainz, so there's no seat available from there. Mercedes have a seat available, but he's not going to get that. Sauber Audi have a seat available, but again, I can't see him getting that one unless he's just something miraculous, which again, his junior performances haven't stood up. So I'm a little bit surprised they've gone with him, but he's part of the Williams Academy, and as James Vowles said, it's what we do. James Vowles James is huge on bringing up junior talent. He ran the Mercedes development program, so he knows what's available. Maybe Kimi Antonelli would have been an opportunity there. I don't know what the politics behind all that were, or if they were even asked. So, great opportunity for the kid, get 7 or 8 races under his belt. The negative side of it is he won't be able to go back to Formula 2 next year, because I think if you run a certain number of Formula 1 races, then you're not eligible for Formula 2. So
so that puts him, if he doesn't get a Formula 1 ride, he's going to Japanese supercars or WEC or INDYCAR.
Super Formula or something. So let's see what happens. But an Argentinian back on the field. Hopefully, no death threats.
Hopefully not. We'll so, all right. So anyway, we are out of time. We're, matter of fact, in overtime. So let's do a quick green-white checker. I hope we don't crash doing this one, so we don't have to do another. But thanks again to Luis Torres, Multimedia, Uber Carshare, Netflix, and again, I always like to bring up the Shriners Hospital, because that's a worthy charity. Even though we're not running their promo right there. I want to thank Sinister One Productions and our fine producer, Keith Hayes. I want to thank you, Richard, Louise, and Lee. Hope you guys had a nice week off. Looking forward to having both you guys back on next week.
Do they get paid vacation from this show? I don't know.
I don't get paid appearances for this show, so I don't know. Yeah, check with Keith. Yeah. Anyway, I want to thank YouTube, Spotify, Facebook Live, and but most of all, I want to thank you folks that tuned in and listened to us. I had a fun time tonight. It's good to be back home and not trying to come in on the road. So, but until next week, have a good week. Enjoy the races. Good night.
Indeed.
Thanks for watching Drafting the Circuits. Make sure to follow Drafting the Circuits on Facebook, Spotify, Twitter, and YouTube. Drafting the Circuits is a Sinister One production.